Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends G7 Outreach Summit in Canada. Leaders issue statements on AI for prosperity, transnational repression, and countering migrant smuggling. Prime Minister Modi meets other world leaders on the sidelines of the G7 summit, discusses strengthening of bilateral ties. G7 leaders call for de-escalation, but stop short of seeking a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. And Israel and Iran continue attacks on each other. US President Donald Trump convenes a meeting of his National Security Council. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in the G7 Outreach Summit in Canada's Kananaskis. PM Modi held productive exchanges with G7 leaders on key global challenges and shared aspirations for a better planet. The other leaders from Australia, Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, Ukraine, and heads of international organizations such as the United Nations and the World Bank convened for a collective commitment to addressing global challenges and promoting common values. The G7 summit released the joint statement on the future of quantum technologies. It recognizes that quantum technologies have the potential to bring significant and transformative benefits to societies worldwide and will require international collaboration. The member countries committed themselves to promoting public and private investments in quantum science and technology, promote the development and adoption of beneficial applications of quantum technologies, supporting opportunities for all stakeholders to meaningfully participate, supporting initiatives, exchanging best practices, and promoting workforce development policies for all, supporting an open and fair market environment and trusted ecosystem, promoting trust in quantum technologies through public and international dialogues, increasing the understanding of risks associated with quantum technologies across different sectors, intensifying collaboration between trusted national measurement institutes, and lastly, to collaborate through a G7 joint working group on quantum technologies. The leaders attending the G7 summit agreed on the subject of AI for prosperity. The statement readouts as follows. The leaders of the G7 recognize the potential of a human-centric approach to artificial intelligence. Canada, as G7 presidency, is launching the G7 Gov AI Grand Challenge and will host a series of rapid solution labs to develop innovative and scalable solutions to the barriers we face in adopting AI in the public sector. Promote economic prosperity by supporting SMEs to adopt and develop AI that respects personal information and strengthens their readiness, efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness. The adopted roadmap outlines the shared vision and practical steps to help SMEs move from uncertainty to opportunity, to shift from being AI aware to being AI powered. Nations committed themselves to accelerating AI readiness and competitiveness, develop an AI adoption blueprint, expand G7 talent exchanges, unlock AI opportunity through trust building. The leaders of the G7 reaffirmed their commitment to preventing and countering migrant smuggling through the G7 coalition to prevent and counter the smuggling of migrants and the 2024 G7 action plan to prevent and counter the smuggling of migrants. The leaders are determined to enhance border management and enforcement and dismantle the transnational organized crime groups profiting from both migrant smuggling and human trafficking. To counter the issue, G7 action plan adopted this year, which includes a follow the money approach, boost prevention with countries of origin and transit, collaborate with social media companies and engage with transport operators to prevent the facilitation of irregular migration. And Prime Minister Modi met Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Kananaskis. PM Modi complimented Carney and the Canadian government for successfully hosting the G7 summit. Both leaders held discussions on a wide range of issues. In a joint remark, PM Modi said India has kept the foundation in G20 for global good and it should be taken forward at G7 too. He said India and Canada are connected by a strong belief in democracy, freedom and rule of law. And both leaders look forward to working closely to add momentum to the India-Canada friendship in areas such as trade, energy, space, clean energy, critical minerals, fertilizers and more, offering immense potential in this regard.
पिछले दिनों G20 समिट की अध्यक्षता के रूप में भारत ने विश्व के लिए अनेक उपकारक ऐसे इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं। आज G7 के अंदर G20 में भारत ने जो मजबूत नींव रखी है उसको एक प्रकार से नए स्वरूप में G7 में उसके एग्जीक्यूशन की दिशा में ले जाने में एक बहुत बड़ा अवसर है और भारत इस अवसर का उपयोग ग्लोबल गुड के लिए करने के लिए हमेशा इच्छुक रहा है, आगे भी इच्छुक रहेगा।
PM Modi says that India and Canada relations are very important in many ways. Many Canadian companies have investments in India. The people of India also have a huge investment on Canadian soil.
लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों को समर्पित कनाडा और भारत मिलकर के लोकतंत्र को मजबूत करना होगा, मानवता को मजबूत करना होगा, हमारे रिसोर्सेज का ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन कर करके मानव जात के कल्याण के काम में कैसे ला सकते हैं, उस दिशा में हम प्रयास करते रहेंगे। और मुझे विश्वास है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के चुनाव के बाद मुझे पहली बार मिलने का मौका मिला है, तो इस चुनाव के भव्य विजय के लिए भी मैं उनको बधाई देता हूं और आने वाले कालखंड में उनके साथ भारत और कनाडा मिलकर के अनेक क्षेत्रों में प्रगति करेंगे।
Canada's Prime Minister Carney said India's presence at the G7 summit is a testament to the importance of PM Modi's leadership. He added that Canada stands with India in its fight against terrorism.
It's a great honor to host you at the G7. India has been coming to the G7, I believe, since 2018 in Biarritz with our French partners, and it's a testament to the importance of your country, to your leadership, and to the importance of the issues that we look to tackle together, from energy security, from the energy transition that you're helping to lead, to the future of artificial intelligence, to the fight that we have against transnational repression, against terrorism, against...
PM Modi met Mexico's President Dr. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo on the sidelines of the 51st G7 summit in Kananaskis, Canada. In their first ever meeting, Prime Minister Modi congratulated President Sheinbaum on a historic electoral victory. He thanked Mexico for its support in India's fight against terrorism. The two leaders emphasized deepening cooperation across key sectors including trade, investment, startups, science and technology, and the automotive industry. They discussed leveraging near-shoring opportunities and enhancing collaboration in pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and holistic health. President Sheinbaum expressed admiration for India's advancements in technology and digital infrastructure and conveyed interest in joint initiatives in semiconductor, AI, quantum technology and critical minerals. The two leaders also welcomed stronger cultural exchanges, tourism and academic cooperation. PM Modi recalled his 2016 visit to Mexico and invited President Sheinbaum to visit India. They concluded with a shared commitment to amplify the voice of the Global South and work together on global and regional challenges. Commemorating steadfast 25 years of strategic partnership, Prime Minister Modi met Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Both leaders discussed ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation in key areas such as trade and investment, defense and security, green and sustainable development partnership, green energy, technology, innovation, education and mobility. They also exchanged views on regional and international developments. PM Modi thanked Chancellor Merz for Germany's strong solidarity and support to India in the fight against terrorism. And Prime Minister Modi met his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese on the sidelines of the G7 summit. PM Modi also met South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa. PM Modi also had a meeting with South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to deepening the India-South Korea Special Strategic Partnership by exploring new avenues for cooperation through partnerships in areas such as trade and economy, critical and emerging technologies, green hydrogen, shipbuilding, culture and people-to-people contact, among others. They also discussed regional and global issues. And PM Modi also met Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on the sidelines of the G7 summit. He also met his Japanese counterpart Ishiba Shigeru during the G7 summit in Canada. India and Japan remained committed to further deepening bilateral ties across various sectors. On the sidelines of the summit, PM Modi also met with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And Prime Minister Modi had a meeting with France's President Emmanuel Macron. The two leaders discussed ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation in key areas. They also exchanged views on regional and international developments. Now, France will host the next G7 summit at the Alpine spa resort town of Evian-les-Bains in 2026, French President Emmanuel Macron said on Tuesday. Bordering Switzerland on the shores of Lake Geneva, Evian already hosted the G7 in 2003. It was also the first time that Russia had been invited to join, although it was kicked out of the group in 2014 after it annexed Crimea from Ukraine. The leaders of Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States and the European Union will meet in the summer of 2026. Let me also give you some more visuals. The world leaders, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, attending the G7 Outreach Summit hosted by Canada. Discussions with outreach partners focused on the future of energy security, including diversification, technology, infrastructure and investment to ensure access and affordability in a changing world. The group of 7 nations have expressed support for Israel and labeled its rival Iran as a source of instability in West Asia. In a statement issued late on Monday, the leaders called for peace and stability in the region. The joint statement, backed by Trump and released by Canada, urged that the resolution of the Iranian crisis leads to a broader de-escalation of hostilities in West Asia, including a ceasefire in Gaza. The statement also said that Israel has a right to defend itself and stressed the importance of the protection of civilians as the growing attacks kill civilians on both sides. Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States also said their conviction is that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Israel's military has said it has struck Iran deep, hitting its nuclear, ballistic and command capabilities. It launched at least 2 waves of strikes targeting missile and drone sites in western Iran. Multiple series of loud explosions were heard across Tehran over the course of the day, while Iranian media reported blasts in Isfahan, which hosts nuclear facilities. Israel said it intercepted most of a barrage of missiles fired from Iran after air raid sirens sounded in Tel Aviv and northern parts of the country. The Israeli military issued 7 missile alerts for various parts of the country since midnight. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel's campaign seeks to eliminate Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, as well as its axis of terrorism, a reference to Iranian-backed militant groups operating in West Asia. He has also not ruled out killing the Iranian supreme leader. Meanwhile, Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said that regime change is not an objective of this war. It can be a result, but it's not an objective, he said. Meanwhile, Iran denied seeking nuclear weapons and has pointed to its right to nuclear technology for peaceful purposes, including enrichment, as a party to the International Non-Proliferation Treaty.
We are now on day 5 of Operation Rising Lion. We've struck deep, hitting Iran's nuclear, ballistic, and command capabilities. The Iranian regime has spent years getting closer to a nuclear weapon. They have spent billions building a ballistic missile program. Our mission is clear: to remove the threat at its source.
Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff Abdul Rahim Mousavi has issued a stark warning to Israeli civilians. In a televised statement, Mousavi urged residents of Tel Aviv and Haifa to evacuate immediately, citing imminent punitive operations against Israel. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guards say they have launched retaliatory strikes on Israeli air bases, which they claim have been used to launch attacks on Iranian territory. Tensions remain dangerously high. Time for a very short break. Keep watching DD India Live. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Amid escalating tensions between Iran and Israel, US President Donald Trump called for Iran's unconditional surrender and warned US patience was wearing thin. Trump claimed that the US knows the exact location of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, calling him an easy target, but said that he won't be taken out, at least for now. Trump also asserted that the U.S. controls the skies over Iran, and he praised the effectiveness of U.S.-made weaponry, though he stopped short of directly naming Israel. And Trump met his National Security Council on Tuesday to discuss the Iran-Israel war as the U.S. leader considered whether to join Israel's air campaign against Tehran. As per a White House official, the meeting in the White House Situation Room lasted around 1 hour and 20 minutes. Trump is keeping all options on the table while insisting that Washington, D.C. had no hand in the campaign so far. The most likely option under consideration by Trump would be the use of giant U.S. bunker buster bombs against Iran's deeply buried Fordo nuclear facility that Israel's bombs cannot reach. Some other media reports are claiming that said Trump was also considering allowing U.S. tanker aircraft to refuel Israeli combat jets so that they could carry out long-range missions. On the sidelines of the G7 summit, French President Emmanuel Macron took a firm stand against any military intervention in Iran. Speaking to journalists, Macron said he was opposed to actions that could lead to regime change and further chaos in the region.
Le grand des erreurs aujourd'hui, c'est de chercher par la voie militaire à faire un changement de régime en Iran. Parce que ce sera là le chaos. Et donc la responsabilité qui est la nôtre, c'est de reprendre au plus vite des discussions pour permettre justement de redonner un cadre à la question nucléaire et à la question balistique. C'est constamment ce que la France fait depuis 10 ans.
The Indian Embassy in Tel Aviv has issued an advisory for nationals in Israel to stay vigilant and follow safety protocols. In the advisory, it is said that Indians intending to leave should use land crossings and register with the embassy for assistance. The Embassy of India has also activated its helpline numbers 24/7 to provide assistance to Indian nationals. Those needing help or information can call on the following numbers: +972 54 75 20711 or +972 54 327 8392. They could also email at cons1.telaviv@mea.gov.in. In addition, the Indian nationals who remain in Israel and have not yet registered with the embassy have been strongly urged to do so immediately via the registration portal. The portal is called indembassy-israel.gov.in/Indian_national_reg. Meanwhile, Ukraine on Tuesday slammed the lack of an adequate reaction from the world to Russia's strikes on its soil after an attack on Kyiv killed at least 16 people. The European Commission has proposed the EU ban all Russian gas and liquefied natural gas imports by the end of 2027, with a ban on short-term contracts starting next year. The UK too announced further sanctions against Russia. This is a report.
As the Russia-Ukraine conflict drags on, the Kremlin on Tuesday said that there was no understanding of when the next direct negotiations with Kyiv would take place, adding Russia had fulfilled all its obligations agreed to in previous talks held in Istanbul on June 2. The Kremlin also made it clear that Russia would assess the possible time frame for continuing negotiations in the coming days. Amid all this, Russia fired scores of missiles and drones at Kyiv on Tuesday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky alleged that at least 16 people were killed in what he thought was one of the most horrific attacks on the capital. According to Zelensky, Russia sent more than 440 drones and 32 missiles at Ukraine. The strike was one of the deadliest on Kyiv since Russia launched its full-scale attack in February 2022. Ukraine also slammed the lack of adequate response and condemnation from the world to Russia's deadly strikes on its soil. Meanwhile, as search operations continued at a missile strike site in Kyiv, Representatives of 62 foreign diplomatic missions visited the spot. Also, Britain on Tuesday announced further sanctions against Russia. The latest sanctions targeted 4 individuals, 6 entities and 20 ships, including oil tankers, marine-related companies and suppliers of goods to Russia, particularly electronics. As negotiations between Kyiv and Moscow have failed, Secretary of Russia's Security Council and a former defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, held talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for the second time in 2 weeks on Tuesday on special instructions from President Vladimir Putin. Shoigu previously visited Pyongyang and met Kim on March 21 and June 4 as Moscow and Pyongyang came close in the face of a situation which both nations termed as hostile West. Bureau Report, DD India.
And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen now to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.